Good afternoon, I'm Rob Boskamp, and you're listening to South Texas Midday. Thank you for joining me on this Thursday, November 6th. Amid drought conditions, one of the big three global credit ratings agencies, Fitch Ratings, has revised its view on Corpus Christi's utility system bonds from stable to negative. In an October 31st report, Fitch affirmed approximately $1.19 billion in the city's utility system parity revenue bonds at AA-. The report also revised the city's financial profile assessment to A, down from AA, noting that leverage could exceed 10 times in upcoming years because of debt, quote, incurred to fund various water supply projects. The agency cited rising financial pressures and mounting uncertainty about the city's long-term water supply. The report also mentions the city's potential level 1 water emergency anticipated by next November absent meaningful drought relief. Fitch also flagged the city's recent decision to cancel the Inner Harbor desalination plant project as a major concern. The agency added that a return to stable outlook would depend on timely execution of capital projects to secure additional water supply and if the city can maintain affordability and debt coverage as drought and capital costs continue to be factors. Last week's hailstorms that swept through the coastal bend caused property damage for many residents in the Portland and Ingleside areas, but it was also catastrophic for over 2,000 coastal birds. Early assessments from the Hart Research Institute revealed more than 2,000 birds, including 1,600 brown pelicans, were killed or severely injured by the storm. 9 other species, including the threatened reddish egret, red knot, and piping plover, were devastated on Rookery Islands in Coastal Bend Bay and near Baffin Bay. HRI researchers used drones to assess and help guide recovery efforts while visiting all the islands in the storm's path to understand the extent of the damage. The collaborative response and research effort was between the Hart Research Institute at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, University of Texas Marine Science Institute's Amos Rehabilitation Keep, Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries Program, Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and the Nature Conservancy. A full assessment is expected to be available in a few weeks as researchers gather more information on the event. We continue our coverage on regional election results. Brownsville voters ultimately voted against Brownsville ISD Propositions A and B. This is the third time Brownsville ISD has attempted to pass the bond proposal.
When the community decides that they want their schools fixed, then they need to come to us and say, Dr. Chavez, we need to address these issues. What we will not have is good roofs. We will not have good window situations for our students. We will not have good air conditioning for our students.
That was Brownsville ISD Superintendent Dr. Jesus Chavez speaking to KRGV. Proposition A was a $385 million bond that would have paid for renovations at 39 campuses in the district. 59% of voters rejected the proposition. Proposition B was a $75 million bond that called for the construction of a new performing arts center. 62% of voters rejected the bond proposal. Meanwhile, the City of Taft voted for a new mayor as current Ward 1 alderperson Elida Castillo received about 38% of the votes to win the election. She defeated current Mayor Leonard Vasquez as well as candidates Pedro Lopez and Chris Keeney for the seat. In Cameron County, La Feria residents voted to reject a charter to extend the length of terms for the mayor and commissioners. The amendment would have extended the terms of the current mayor and commissioners from 3 years to 4 years. Fiscal impact of the amendment was just over $18,000. Voters rejected the proposition by a vote of 176 for and 335 against, according to unofficial county election results. In Port Aransas, voters approved an increase to the city's hotel occupancy tax, raising it from 13% to 15% for hotels and short-term rentals. The tax increase will take effect on January 1st, and a proposed tax rate for Aransas Pass ISD was voted down according to the San Patricio County Elections Office. If approved by APISD voters, it would have increased the district's maintenance and operations tax rate by 3 cents. About 460 votes were cast against the proposition and over 300 votes in favor of it, according to the County Elections Office. Among 3.5 million Texans, including 1.7 million children, are on the Supplemental Nutrition and Assistance Program, also known as SNAP. They still haven't seen any November benefits, which could take days to roll out, and that is families across the region looking for help in ways they either depend heavily on or may not have considered. Even then, resources are spread thin. Joining me this afternoon is Coastal Bend Food Bank Executive Director B. Hanson. This particular branch provides assistance to about 60,000 people in Nueces County and more in the surrounding area. B, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon, Rob. How are you doing?
Doing pretty well on this Thursday. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, they're keeping me busy, and that's a good thing.
With the suspension of SNAP benefits since last week, first off, let's talk about the food bank itself. How big of an area does the food bank service?
We service 11 counties, all the way from Three Rivers in the north to Falfurrias in the south, and Alice and Duval County on the west.
Kind of walk me through this past week. What has it been like in terms of the turnout as far as assistance requests? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? Where is it at?
Actually, I can go back a little farther. During the month of October, just at the food bank, this is not we have 160 different distributions, but this is just the 4 distributions that we did at the food bank. We saw a 20% increase in individuals, neighbors that had never asked for help from the food bank before. And that's very unusual. Now, what is happening is that we are getting a lot of phone calls because people are getting scared. And so we have had to actually schedule distributions because we're getting calls from, for example, the federal prison in Three Rivers. They have a lot of staff that are working every day, but they're not being paid. So we already did one distribution there. We're going to do another one probably next week. We are helping other federal employees that have not been paid, and they are coming by the food bank to receive food. And we are waiting on the naval base and the base in Kingsville, who had already reached out to us. And as soon as we get the okay, we will probably do distributions in those 2 bases as well. So it's almost like we're scheduling distributions, but we're having one for the general public on the 11th. It's going to be at the Robstown Richard Borchard's Fairgrounds. And we are preparing for 1,200 families. It's really getting very busy. The food, I can tell you, it is going out the door as fast as it's coming in. And for the first time, we have never had to do this before, but we are having to purchase.
With that being said, what are listeners able to do if they're hearing this story and they say, I want to help out? What can they do?
Well, several areas. Volunteering at the food bank, because we are having to build the boxes for each one of those distributions. The second one also is, which our community has been very generous, and through the Day of Giving and some foundations and individuals had been giving us monetary donations, and that's how we have been able to go out.
One of the other food banks we spoke with mentioned that monetary donations are the best option in terms of helping out because you're able to move a little bit faster with those resources.
Well, and we can purchase food at wholesale price, and people are doing food drives, and which is very helpful as well, but people are going to their local grocery stores and purchasing the food retail price. So a monetary donation gives us the freedom to order a truckload of, say, chickens, which is about $40,000 to $45,000.
Are any of the food bank's services being affected with the suspension of the SNAP benefits?
Not necessarily. We have 2 employees that help families to apply for SNAP and other government benefits. And we're encouraging people to continue to do that because as soon as this is lifted, they have the opportunity to be approved. So they are staying busy in that respect. But one of the programs that the government cut completely is our nutrition education program. And so we are continuing to do nutrition education through the generosity of a local donor. They saved the program and they gave me enough money to operate the program this year. So we are continuing to do the nutrition education because it's basic. We go into the schools, we do families and diabetes, etc. So we're in the business of offering food to people, and if we don't teach them how to eat properly and healthy, we may be part of the problem creating disease in families and diabetes, and we want people to stay healthy, our neighbors to stay healthy.
And this is looking down the road, and hopefully we don't get to this point, but right now we are in the longest federal government shutdown. Are there any long-term plans or preparations that the food bank is gearing up for in case it goes on even longer?
You know, one of the main missions of the food bank is to respond in time of crisis. So we have been preparing for crisis, and we're always ready for a hurricane. And so, of course, we had the freeze, we had the pandemic. So almost you can say we've been operating in crisis mode for the past 2 or 3 years. It's difficult now because food prices have gone up, and we're having to purchase food because just the donations haven't been enough to meet the need. Other than that, we're operating pretty much in a way that we have been training for. I would love to thank the communities in our service area and beyond, because they realize that neighbors are in need, that they are in fear of losing what they have. I don't want to see any children going to bed hungry. And without the help of the community, we couldn't do that. And they have poured out their resources to us. They have come to volunteer, and they're calling us all the time to see what they can do. And my heart goes to them. Thank you so much.
B, thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
That was B. Hanson, Coastal Bend Food Bank Executive Director. Last week, 2 federal judges ordered the Trump administration to fund SNAP after states were notified last month that the USDA wouldn't be able to pay out benefits because the federal government is shut down. Although the president suggested on social media this week that SNAP wouldn't be funded until the government reopens, USDA has said it will pay at most half of what people would typically receive for the month. In sports, the Texas A&M Corpus Christi women's basketball team suffered its first loss of the 2025-26 season last night, starting off strong but ultimately falling on the road to Texas A&M 81-43. The Islanders were led in scoring by Samora Watson, who posted 12 points to reach double figures for the second game in a row, while also grabbing 6 rebounds. Chelsea Wooten was not far behind with 8 points, while Marissa Shelton finished with 7 and led the team with 5 assists. Grab your binoculars and look out to Corpus Christi Bay this week. You'll likely see world-class sailors and their boats on the water. More than 80 sailors from around the world are here for the U.S. Multihull Championship races. The international championship event, hosted by U.S. Sailing and the Corpus Christi Yacht Club, features participants from across the country, as well as Venezuela, Australia, and Greece. Racing continues today and tomorrow, typically from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the National Hispanic Institute brings its Great Debate event back to Texas next summer. KEDT's Joe Smichael spoke with organization officials on how the event and the Institute shape the leaders of tomorrow.
In 1979, Ernesto Nieto and Gloria de Leon founded the National Hispanic Institute to cultivate leaders within the Latino community throughout the United States and Latin America. Based in Austin, Texas, the NHI was designed as a structured program to prepare high school students for college with leadership training, and continues as a networking opportunity post-graduation. The NHI is not a language-based organization, but focuses on student creativity and provides a platform to present that creativity in public speaking. Nicole Nieto, Executive Vice President, describes their mission.
Now, our focus is community-based. What we want is for them to be a community leader where they're thinking about different sectors of the population, how their ideas and even their policy ideas might impact various sectors of the population, and not just one specific myopic type view. How do we do that? Well, we need to introduce them to other students their age who may come from all across Texas, for example, or from even different states, even different countries.
The National Hispanic Institute also promotes employment activities and opportunities with students where
we do our best to find students who are interested in self-development, who want to do really well in life, and who don't mind putting in the extra hours to learn how to articulate their thoughts in writing, in public speaking, in debate, in collaboration, things like that. And these are skills that most companies would love for people to have as they enter into the workforce, because we're an international economy.
The NHI sponsors 3 events throughout the school year to help students prepare for the college experience: the Great Debate, the Lorenzo de Zavala Legislative Session, and the NHI Collegiate World Series. Tomorrow in South Texas Midday, we'll learn more about the Great Debate and how it helps students grow into leaders of tomorrow. Joe Smichael, KEDT News.
And I'm Rob Boskamp, and that is the latest news and information on South Texas Midday. Stick around, your community arts calendar and more is on the way.